I used to believe that life had already given me everything it could, that the seasons of change had passed me by, and what was left were quiet days meant to be endured rather than lived. My name is Margaret Collins, though everyone calls me Maggie. At 62 years old, I had convinced myself that nothing new could come into my life. The routines I carried out each day were more like shadows of existence than real living. My mornings began with coffee at the same kitchen table I had sat at for decades. My afternoons were filled with chores, and evenings were long stretches of silence interrupted only by the television. My children were grown, busy with their own families, and my husband had passed away 8 years ago. Since then, I had shut myself inside an invisible cage, telling myself I was too old for change, too set in my ways for anything new to matter. But all of that began to shift the day I met Daniel Hayes. He was a man who seemed to carry the sunlight with him wherever he went, even though his life, too, had seen storms. I first encountered Daniel at the community center in town. My daughter, Emily, had begged me to join a painting class they were offering. She said I needed to get out more, to meet people, to find something that could bring me joy again. I had laughed at the suggestion. At my age, I told her, what would I even do there? Everyone will be younger, and I'll look ridiculous trying to start something new. But Emily had a way of persuading me, and eventually, I found myself sitting in a brightly lit room that smelled of paint and wood polish, staring at a blank canvas. That's when I noticed him. Daniel was sitting a few seats away, his gray hair swept back, his hands steady as he held a brush. He must have been in his late 60s, maybe 70, but there was something about him that made him seem timeless. His posture was confident, his eyes focused, and every now and then, he would smile at the woman next to him or laugh at something the instructor said. He didn't look like someone attending a class to pass the time. He looked like someone truly alive. I, on the other hand, was stiff, awkward, unsure of what to do with the paints in front of me. At one point, I must have sighed too loudly because Daniel turned toward me with a grin. "First time?" he asked. I nodded, feeling my cheeks warm. "Is it that obvious?" "Only because I was the same on my first day," he replied. "Don't worry. The trick isn't to make something perfect. It's just to let yourself enjoy it. The canvas doesn't judge." There was something comforting about the way he said it, as if he understood more than just the frustration of holding a brush. I smiled back, and for the first time in a long time, I felt seen. Over the next several weeks, the class became a routine. But unlike my old routines, this one had something different, something that drew me in. Every Tuesday and Thursday, I found myself looking forward to sitting at that long table with paint spread before me. Daniel and I began talking more, first about art, then about other things. He told me he had been a high school teacher before he retired, that he loved history and hiking, that he had moved to our town after losing his wife 5 years earlier. His honesty was gentle, not heavy, and when he spoke of loss, I could feel the quiet strength in his words. I opened up to him too, sharing bits about my late husband, my children, and the loneliness I rarely admitted to anyone. He listened without judgment, nodding at the right times, smiling when I spoke of happy memories. Our conversations became something I craved. One afternoon, after class, Daniel suggested we grab coffee together. I hesitated, unsure if I was ready to step outside the safe walls I had built around my heart. But the way he asked, casual yet kind, made it hard to refuse. We walked to a small cafe nearby, and for 2 hours, we talked as though we had known each other for years. He had a way of making me laugh, something I hadn't done freely in so long. By the time I returned home that day, I realized I was humming to myself, a small thing, but it felt monumental. As weeks turned into months, Daniel slowly became a part of my life. He would call me to check in, invite me to walk with him in the park, or suggest we try a new restaurant. At first, I resisted. Change felt like an intruder, something I had long ago shut out. But Daniel was patient. He never pushed me, only encouraged me, always reminding me with his presence that life didn't end at 60 or 70. It simply took on new colors. One spring afternoon, he invited me to join him on a hike. "It's nothing too difficult," he promised. "Just a trail by the lake. You'll love the view." I nearly said no. Hiking wasn't something I had done since my younger years, and I was afraid of embarrassing myself. But something in me whispered that I should try. So, I put on my old sneakers and met him by the trailhead. The walk was harder than I expected, but Daniel never rushed me. He slowed his steps to match mine, pointing out wildflowers along the way, telling me stories about the places he had hiked in his youth. When we finally reached the lake, I stopped in awe. The water shimmered under the sunlight, surrounded by trees just beginning to show their green leaves. For a moment, I forgot my age, my worries, and everything else that had kept me tied to the past. "You see?" Daniel said, smiling at me. "It's never too late to discover something new." Tears pricked my eyes, though I tried to hide them. In that moment, I realized he wasn't just teaching me about hiking or painting. He was teaching me how to live again. Our friendship grew deeper. People at the community center began teasing us, calling us the inseparable pair. And though I brushed it off, I couldn't deny the warmth in my chest whenever Daniel reached for my hand as we walked, or when he looked at me with that quiet kindness in his eyes. One evening, after a long day, I found myself sitting on my porch, watching the sunset. Daniel stopped by, holding 2 cups of tea. He handed me one and sat beside me. We didn't speak much at first, just watched the sky turn shades of orange and pink. Then he turned to me and said softly, "Maggie, I know we're not young anymore, and I know life hasn't been easy for either of us. But I also know that I feel something here, with you, that I thought I'd never feel again. You make me want to keep living, not just existing." His words broke through the walls I had built so carefully. I realized then that what I felt for him wasn't just companionship. It was love, fragile yet strong, unexpected yet real. From that night on, my world changed. Daniel and I shared laughter, adventures, quiet evenings, and new beginnings. He encouraged me to travel with him, even if just to nearby towns. He pushed me to try cooking new recipes, to read books I had never picked up before, to see life as an open canvas instead of a closed chapter. With him, I discovered that age didn't define me, spirit did. When my daughter Emily came to visit, she noticed the sparkle in my eyes. "Mom," she said, hugging me tightly, "you look happier than I've seen you in years." And she was right. I was happy. Not because everything was perfect, but because I had allowed myself to believe in change again. Looking back now, I realize how easy it would have been to stay in my quiet routines, convincing myself that my story had ended. But Daniel reminded me that life continues to offer chances if we're brave enough to take them.